Hello, I'm Axel van Trotzenberg. I'm the Senior Managing Director at the World Bank. We're here at the World Bank headquarters during the spring meetings, and I'm joined by Reverend Eugene, who is the President of Bread for the World. Thank you, Eugene, for joining us today. This is an important topic. Unfortunately, after 50 years, after the famous Rome summit to eradicate hunger, we're still at it. What explains this?
Axel, again, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you and others here at spring meetings. You're absolutely right. We have this tremendous, important goal to end hunger, and we are still very much at it. We can acknowledge that we've made tremendous progress, especially in the last 20 years, but yet at the last 5 years, hunger around the world has dramatically upticked. And there's numerous reasons. Certainly the global pandemic added to that. Certainly climate change is a real factor. Conflict in so many places around the world. Those are probably three of the biggest drivers. Certainly inflation and costs are a factor. And so we're at a point right now, as you know, about 800 million people around the world experiencing hunger. And then we want to maybe even zone in a little bit. 150 or so million children around the world under the age of 5 experiencing stunting, 45 million children experiencing wasting. So those are some of the factors, but as we all know, the cost to innocent lives are just dramatic.
Enormous. And yes, we have also been scaling up our support there, but there are short and long-term factors. You just mentioned conflict, fragility in countries. That have become major drivers. How do you see that, and how do you see also your activities directed towards those areas where it's really hard to provide support?
Yeah. Right now, when you look at 8 of the worst hunger hotspots around the world, violence, conflict, fragility are at the center of it all. And so we can't avoid them. I think the first thing that I would suggest is that as human beings, as global neighbors, we have to do all that we can to promote peace and prosperity. And as challenging as it is, we have to engage these difficult places. As it's been said by others, children don't start war. They don't end war because they're not able to, but they're the ones who are most impacted. And so I think there's several things that we have to do. We have to make sure that directed humanitarian response certainly is available. That requires tremendous, robust funding, and that is a real challenge in the world right now. But in addition to immediate responses, we have to also think about the development perspective, and that's where I think the World Bank provides very important leadership. IDA is an example of that. But those are some of the responses that I have. We have to engage these places of fragility, conflict, and violence.
Yeah, and you mentioned your activities, but we have always appreciated enormously our partnership. You have always been a great partner with the bank. You've been pushing us for the right reasons. So this year we will start again a new round of negotiations for IDA. That is our Fund for the Poorest Countries. We want to be super ambitious, but also partly because of the reasons what you're saying. The world is a tough place, and particularly hunger is man-made, and we could actually solve that. So on the support for a fund like IDA, what motivates you to support this? We love it, but it would be great that you share a little bit your ideas why you're supportive of our efforts.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that Bread for the World has been a good partner, that we've pushed World Bank. The truth is we all need to push one another. This is not a time for status quo. In response to all the factors, and there's others that have contributed to these exasperated, unprecedented rates of modern day hunger, everyone needs to do better and needs to do more. But some of the reasons why Bread for the World supports IDA is because there are no perfect programs or systems, and anyone that says otherwise, we need to run away. But we know that it works. We know that it's effective. And we know that during a time when some of the most challenged nations around the world, they need lifelines. They need real resources. And so IDA specifically focuses on making sure that these loans and grants are available for nations that are especially challenged during this time. But in addition to a robust replenishment during this time, we have to also acknowledge that IDA needs to get better. And by that, we mean that we need to really center and name, in our opinion, the importance of food and nutrition during this time. Maybe 20 plus years ago, I think many of us that do this work, there was sort of an obsession or infatuation with calories. And we know that it's important, but we have to also focus on the critical nature of nutrition. And nutrition is so underfunded widely. The UN Food Program, the World Food Program, the United Nations, they've all said 60 to 70% shortfall in response to malnutrition. We want families and men and women, and especially children, not just to survive, but have a vision for what thriving looks like. So one is just, let's center food and nutrition. The second one, the President Gupta has mentioned how important it is for us to focus on climate change as well. We certainly echo how critical that particular work is during this time. One of the reasons why I think IDA is such an important personal story for me is, I am the youngest son of my father, who was born in what is now called North Korea. The stories that he shares are just hard to believe. The sad part about these stories are that they're not just stories from 60 years ago. They're stories that are happening in the world right now. And as you know, because Korea has often been shared as a story of success. But 1962 received its first loan, and about 15 years later, they became the first nation that received a grant to be contributing back. We would love to envision a time, we know there's no overnight success, but we would love to envision in the future a world where these nations who are receiving grants are able to flourish and be able to give back so that the rest of the world can flourish. It's one of the reasons why we need a courageous, robust replenishment of IDA 21.
Clearly, we agree fully with this, but it is also important how you articulate it. Is the short term, the longer term, the solidarity notion very important. And frankly, it's simply unacceptable that we have today still hunger in this world at the levels we are seeing. We're also grateful that during the G20 presidency of Brazil, President Lula is making a point that we need to attack hunger. So we need an international coalition, whether you are in a multilateral organization or a civil society organization, we'll all need to pull together. So I think that is what should all motivate us. I just wanted to thank you for joining us here. We will have a lot of work ahead of us. We need to think in multidimensional terms to support. And I think we can do it, but we will need all to work together and put a determined effort to really reduce it and ultimately eliminate hunger. Eugene, thanks so much for joining, and have a good day.
Thank you so much.